In one of the wildest game experiences that we've ever been a part of, Arizona State gets the job done in their season opener 24-21 against Southern Utah in Kenny Dillingham's debut game. Nick Borgia of Devil's Digest alongside our publisher Hode Urbino. And Hode, this game was crazy because there was about a 2.5 hour weather delay due to lightning. The haboob rolls in and dust is blowing all around the stadium. The players leave and go to the locker room at halftime, come back 2.5 hours later, and it's nearly a completely different game. What was your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, you're right, Nick. I mean, I know that you can't blame everything when it comes to ASU's very pedestrian performance on that enormous delay that took place after halftime. But nonetheless, I think it really did have, quite an effect on a team that, let's face it, I mean, you can't overstate the newness factor of this. Brand new head coach, a staff of brand new assistant coaches, over 50 newcomers on the team. So I think that when you talk about wanting things to go as smooth as possible in a season opener, the circumstances that presented themselves today were anything but a seamless process for the game. So I think that definitely did take its toll. I don't want to use it too much as an excuse. I'm sure the staff and the players probably do feel the same, and it would be weird to say that it affected Arizona State on their home field more than it did the visitors from Southern Utah, an FCS program. But for whatever bizarre reason, it just seemed that it really affected Arizona State more, and that's why the game was just way too close to comfort. In the second half, ASU scores only 3 points in the last 2 quarters, ekes out a win. I always say it's much easier to correct mistakes after a win than after a loss. But trust me, there's going to be a lot of film, and I would say a lot of bad film for the players to go over, because needless to say, this performance later on in the season is absolutely not going to cut it.
A tale of two halves, definitely, and probably understandably so. But if we start with that first half, looking at the offense, Jaden Rashada making his debut as well. Had a really solid showing, 2 touchdowns, one of which being on a huge 4th and 8 play to Xavier Guillory. Looked really sharp, but then the whole offense as a whole came out of the half looking a little dull. What was your thoughts there?
Yeah, we knew that coming into this game that Southern Utah was really challenged in the secondary. They I don't think they even had any returning starters, any returning key players from 2022. But I thought their defensive coordinator did a great job disguising coverages and making those coverages complex enough for a true freshman quarterback like Jaden Rashada to stumble time and time again. But I also think that the running game really didn't do much favors. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought Cam Scatterbo and DeCarlos Brooks did not play a bad game. But for Arizona State as a whole, to only have 135 yards rushing, and I don't think Jaden Rashada was sacked an enormous amount of time, so that wasn't really affecting the rushing numbers that much. But Rashada found himself in 3rd and long time and time again. I mean, deep into the game, the average 3rd down distance was over 8 yards. And that's something, honestly, that even for a veteran quarterback would really be hard to overcome. But especially for a true freshman in his collegiate debut, I thought that hurdle was just like way too high to overcome. I know that tight end Jalen Conyers looks like he suffered a shoulder injury in the first half, so he did not play in the second half. But on the other hand, wide receiver Elijah Badger, who had to sit out the first half because he was ejected in the season finale against Arizona last year, did play in the second half, but there really was no utilization of him whatsoever. The chemistry between him and Rashada was basically non-existent. Also, the Rashada, look, I mean, he did have some great plays. Obviously, that 47-yard quasi-Hail Mary to Xavier Guillory for the touchdown was definitely impressive, but there still was a lot of, I thought, feast or famine aspect to his game. So, overall, it was definitely a second half that he would want to forget. So, again, I just feel like the second half, which really maybe was going to be a period of time where Rashada could improve even that much more. It looks like all the adjustments that were made by Southern Utah and their staff really affected him. Again, it was a debut of a true freshman quarterback. Nobody expects him really to really knock it out of the park. Even though, like you said, the first half definitely provided a great foundation for that. But the second half was a whole lot story, a lot of teaching moments for the true freshman quarterback.
And now if we look at the defense, ASU as a whole gave up 21 points to Southern Utah. Granted, 7 of those came from a punt block late in the game. But aside from that, do you feel like the defense can be satisfied with their performance out there, especially when they're facing a weaker FCS opponent like today?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Just like the offense, I thought, for first half, it definitely played lights out, but I thought second half, they did not respond quickly and effectively to the adjustments that Southern Utah was throwing at them. And you're right. I mean, one touchdown really is a special teams touchdown. It really is not a defensive touchdown. But I just thought that for the offense to have really just one short drive after another, even if it wasn't a 3 and out, it was just like it was a 4-play drive in some cases. Just really hard for the defense just to be out there fatigued. Losing Clayton Smith in the first half because of a targeting call, I think really did affect their pass rush. I mean, BJ Green didn't have a bad game, but I know BJ Green can be even that much more effective when you have another edge threat on the other side of the line like Clayton Smith. And whoever ASU plugged in for Clayton Smith, this really wasn't up to the task. I don't think that if you look at the stat sheet that Southern Utah really put up gaudy numbers on offense, but again, they were just so anemic in the first half, and obviously the ASU defense had a lot to do with that. That even if the numbers weren't that great in the second half, they really did just enough to keep this ASU defense on its heels. Some really big plays that you just wouldn't expect them to have in the passing game against a pretty good ASU secondary really did take place, and were just really demoralizing that much more because again, even after Southern Utah would score, the offense for ASU wasn't able to respond with a score of their own. So I just felt that the ASU defense just felt more and more pressure, really to maybe overplay, overachieve, and sometimes actually those overplays did allow Southern Utah to gain some big chunks of yards. So the film session for the offense is not going to be pretty at all. But I think the same can say about the defense. There's a lot to learn from this game for this unit. Again, you go back to the fact week one, so many new faces, brand new coaches, brand new scheme. There was really a lot to figure out. And even if things look great on practice, when it comes to game day, that's a whole different story. And the ASU defense did learn that lesson tonight.
Well, ASU's competition kicks it up a notch or 2 or maybe 10 this next game they have against Oklahoma State. What do you think needs to be the focus for this team as a whole as they prepare for a much tougher opponent next Saturday?
I just really think really it'll be like the in-game adjustments. I just feel that, again, and I wouldn't really fault it on a lengthy delay that maybe allowed Southern Utah staff to devise a more complex scheme than they would versus a 20-25 minute halftime. But just really being able to adjust on the fly, and if there are counter adjustments by the opponent, to really to respond to those. Again, that there's going to be a lot of mistakes to show on film, but I think that for the most part, there really are correctable mistakes. And I just feel that the vibe in practices this week, Nick, is really going to be as if Arizona State lost, and the coaches are going to be quite upset in film session, and they're going to be even more demanding this week than they were coming to the season opener. I know some people are going to throw the postseason ban as maybe having the hanger effect on Arizona State. I really don't feel the case that was the case at all. I think the first half play by the Sun Devils on both sides of the ball definitely proved that postseason ban or not, that they really did not affect them at all. But I just thought that sometimes, people like to think that halftime adjustments are overrated. But I feel that whatever Southern Utah did at halftime, granted a 2.5 hours at halftime, was really something that kept Arizona on their heels on both sides of the ball. So there's really going to be a lot to correct. But again, I just feel like the in-game chess match, if you will, Nick, that's an aspect that Arizona State has to get better. Because like I said, Oklahoma State is tenfold better than Southern Utah. And even then the week after that at Fresno State, I mean, that might be just as tough as Oklahoma State, maybe in some respects tougher. So it's really not going to get any easier for the Sun Devils. Again, there's a lot to learn from tonight. If they can really just make sure that those film sessions and those practices are being utilized to their fullest, I think they can be fine. But again, there's definitely a lot to correct.
All right, well, thank you so much for your insight, Hode. As always, for all the coverage leading up to this next Oklahoma State game, keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Drop a follow at Devils Digest on Twitter. For Hode Urbino, I'm Nick Borgia. We appreciate you tuning in. We will see you next time.